The Watcher comes to Earth. Commander Elena Vasquez stared at the massive display screen in the Deep Space Monitoring Station, her coffee growing cold in her hands. The numbers dancing across the screen should not exist. After 15 years of watching the empty void beyond Earth's solar system, she had grown accustomed to the peaceful silence of space. But today, that silence was broken. "Commander, you need to see this," called Dr. Marcus Chon from his workstation across the room. His voice carried an urgency that made Elena's stomach tighten. Marcus had been tracking cosmic phenomena for over a decade, and she had never heard him sound so concerned. Elena walked over to his station, her military boots echoing in the quiet command center. The facility sat on a remote mountain in Chile, far from the lights and noise of civilization. Here, 50 miles from the nearest town, 12 people maintained humanity's watch on the stars. It was supposed to be a routine assignment, monitoring for asteroids and space debris. No one had ever expected to find anything truly dangerous. "What am I looking at?" Elena asked, studying the complex readings on Marcus's screen. "Something big is coming," Marcus replied, his fingers dancing across the keyboard. "Really big. The gravitational disturbance is unlike anything we've recorded. It's not a natural object, Commander. This is artificial." Elena felt her pulse quicken. She had trained for this moment, studied the protocols, but she had never believed it would actually happen. First contact with an alien civilization was supposed to be a moment of wonder and celebration. Instead, she felt only dread. "How long?" "Until it arrives?" she asked. "Based on current trajectory and speed, approximately 6 hours," Marcus said. "But Commander, there's something else. The object appears to be slowing down. It's not just passing through our system. It's coming here. Deliberately." Elena activated the station's emergency protocols. Within minutes, she was on a secure line with General Harrison at NORAD and President Martinez at the White House. The conversations were brief and tense. Earth's military forces were placed on high alert, but everyone knew that if these visitors were hostile, humanity's weapons would be useless. As the hours passed, the alien vessel became visible to their telescopes. Elena stood in the observation deck, watching through the massive lens as the ship approached. It was unlike anything she had imagined. The vessel was enormous, easily the size of a small city, but its design was elegant and purposeful. Instead of the crude mechanical appearance she had expected, the ship looked almost organic, as if it had been grown rather than built. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. The material appeared to shift and flow, changing color from deep purple to silver to gold. Elena had studied every science fiction movie and book she could find, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of seeing an alien spacecraft. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," announced Lieutenant Sarah O'Brien from the communications station. Sarah was young, barely out of the academy, but she had shown remarkable skill in handling complex signals. "It's not radio waves or any frequency we recognize. The ship is somehow projecting the signal directly into our computers." Elena hurried to the communication center. On the main screen, symbols appeared that looked nothing like any human language. But as she watched, the symbols began to change, shifting and rearranging themselves until they formed recognizable letters. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. I am Cathvar, sentinel of the Dominion Empire. I come to evaluate your species for potential threat assessment." Elena stared at the message, her mind racing. The alien had learned their language somehow, but the words were cold and clinical. This was not the peaceful first contact that humanity had hoped for. "Can we respond?" Elena asked Sarah. "I think so," Sarah replied, her fingers working quickly across her console. "The signal seems to be two-way. I can transmit on the same frequency." Elena took a deep breath. The next words she spoke would be humanity's first official communication with an alien civilization. The weight of that responsibility settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station. We welcome you to our solar system, Cathvar. We come in peace and hope to learn from each other. The response came quickly, the alien symbols reforming into new words. Peace is not relevant to my mission. I will establish orbit around your planet and begin assessment. Do not interfere with my work. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The alien's words were not threatening exactly, but they carried an authority that suggested resistance would be futile. She watched through the telescope as the massive ship positioned itself in high orbit above Earth, its strange lights continuing to pulse in that rhythmic pattern. Over the next several hours, Elena and her team monitored the alien vessel's activities. The ship appeared to be scanning Earth with various types of energy beams, conducting what could only be described as a detailed examination of the planet and its inhabitants. Governments around the world were in emergency session, but there was little they could do except wait and watch. Commander, I'm detecting smaller craft leaving the main vessel, Marcus reported. They're heading for different locations around the globe. Elena watched the display as dozens of small ships separated from the main vessel and descended toward Earth's surface. Each one was still larger than anything humanity had built, but they moved with incredible precision and speed. Reports began coming in from around the world as the craft landed in major cities, always in public spaces where they could be easily observed. They're not hiding, Elena observed. Whatever they're doing, they want us to see it. The answer came 2 hours later when another message appeared on their screens. I am Cathvar. I have established observation posts on your planet. I will now begin direct study of your species. Selected individuals will be brought to my ship for examination. Elena felt her heart race. The idea of humans being taken aboard an alien vessel was terrifying, but she also recognized an opportunity. If someone had to make contact with this Cathvar, it might as well be someone with training and experience. Sarah, can you transmit another message? Elena asked. Yes, Commander. Elena composed her thoughts carefully. Cathvar, I am Commander Elena Vasquez. I have authority to speak for Earth space monitoring systems. If you require a human subject for study, I volunteer to come aboard your vessel. The response was immediate. Acceptable. Commander Elena Vasquez, you will be transported to my ship in 1 hour. Bring nitrogen monoxide weapons or recording devices. Elena spent the next hour preparing for what might be humanity's most important diplomatic mission. She left detailed instructions for her team, recorded messages for her family, and tried to calm her racing heart. When the time came, she stood alone on the station's landing pad, watching as a small craft descended from the alien ship. The vessel that landed was beautiful in its alien design, smooth and seamless like a pearl. An opening appeared in its side, revealing a soft, welcoming light. Elena took a deep breath and stepped forward, crossing the threshold between human and alien worlds. The interior of the craft was unlike anything she had expected. Instead of cold metal and harsh lights, she found herself in a space that seemed almost natural. The walls curved gently, and the lighting was warm and soft. There were no visible controls or instruments, but she could feel the craft rising, carrying her toward the massive ship above. When the small vessel docked with the main ship, Elena was escorted through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The alien architecture was beautiful, but completely foreign, following design principles that human minds could barely comprehend. Finally, she was brought to a large chamber where she encountered Cathvar himself. The alien was not what she had expected. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, Cathvar had a vaguely humanoid shape, but was clearly from another world. His skin was a deep blue-gray color that seemed to shift and change in the light. His eyes were large and expressive, containing depths that spoke of ancient wisdom and vast experience. When he moved, it was with a fluid grace that suggested his species had evolved far beyond human limitations. "Commander Elena Vasquez," Cathvar said, his voice resonating through the chamber without him appearing to move his mouth. "You have volunteered to represent your species. This is unexpected. Most civilizations offer their leaders or their most expendable individuals." Elena stood straight, drawing on her military training to maintain her composure. "I volunteered because I believe in the importance of this moment. First contact between our species could determine the future of both our peoples." Cathvar studied her with those deep, alien eyes. "Your species fascinates me, Commander. You are primitive by galactic standards, yet you display behaviors that are unusual. Tell me, why do you show no fear?" Elena considered her answer carefully. "I am afraid," she admitted. "But fear shouldn't prevent us from trying to understand each other. That's what makes us human." For the first time, Cathvar's expression changed. Something that might have been curiosity flickered in his eyes. "Human," he repeated the word as if tasting it. "Yes, I am beginning to understand why the Dominion considers your species worthy of evaluation." Elena felt a chill at his words. Evaluation for what purpose? Cathvar was silent for a long moment before responding. "The Dominion Empire has existed for 10,000 of your years, Commander. We have brought order to a chaotic galaxy by identifying and eliminating threats before they can grow dangerous. Species that show aggressive tendencies or rapid technological advancement are dealt with appropriately." The implication was clear, and Elena felt her blood run cold. "You're here to decide whether humanity should be destroyed." "That is correct," Cathvar said simply. "Your species has shown remarkable technological progress in recent centuries. You have developed nuclear weapons, space travel, and artificial intelligence. The Dominion's predictive models suggest that humanity could become a galactic threat within a few thousand years." Elena struggled to process this information. Everything she thought she knew about first contact was wrong. This wasn't about peaceful exchange or mutual understanding. This was about survival. "How long do we have?" she asked. "My evaluation period is indefinite," Cathvar replied. "I will study your species thoroughly before making my recommendation to the Dominion. The process could take months or years. During this time, I will remain here, observing and learning." Elena looked at the alien sentinel, this being who held the fate of her entire species in his hands. She thought about her team back at the monitoring station, about the billions of people, going about their daily lives with no idea that their existence hung in the balance. "What can we do to prove we're not a threat?" she asked. Cathvar's large eyes studied her intently. "That remains to be seen, Commander. But I will tell you this. Your willingness to come here, to face the unknown for the sake of your species, has already begun to influence my evaluation. Perhaps there is more to humanity than our models predicted." As Elena stood in the alien chamber, surrounded by technology beyond human comprehension, she realized that the greatest challenge in human history was just beginning. The fate of her species would depend not on weapons or technology, but on their ability to prove that humanity deserved to exist among the stars. And somewhere in the depths of space, watching and waiting, the Dominion Empire prepared to receive Cathvar's final judgment on the species called human. Asterisk, when the Watcher becomes the Watched. 3 weeks had passed since Cathvar's arrival, and Elena found herself making daily trips to the alien vessel. What had begun as formal diplomatic meetings had evolved into something resembling conversations. The alien sentinel still spoke in his measured, analytical way, but Elena had begun to detect subtle changes in his tone and behavior. "Your species continues to surprise me, Commander. Kethvar said as they stood in his observation chamber, watching Earth rotate slowly below them. Yesterday, I witnessed something that does not fit our behavioral models. Elena followed his gaze to the planet below. What did you see? A natural disaster struck one of your coastal cities. A massive storm that your people call a hurricane. According to our predictions, such events should cause social collapse and increased aggression as resources become scarce. Kethvar paused, his large eyes reflecting the blue light of Earth. Instead, I observed the opposite. Alina knew what he was referring to. Hurricane Maria had devastated the Gulf Coast, leaving thousands homeless and without power. But the response had been swift and overwhelming. Rescue teams from across the country had mobilized within hours, and ordinary citizens had opened their homes to strangers. Humans from regions that were completely safe traveled great distances to help those affected, Kethvar continued. They brought supplies, medical aid, and shelter. Many of them will never meet the people they saved, yet they risked their own safety for no personal gain. This behavior is illogical by most species standards. Elena smiled slightly. Maybe logic isn't the only thing that drives intelligent behavior. Kethvar turned to look at her, his expression thoughtful. The Dominion operates on principles of efficiency and rational self-interest. We have created order in the galaxy by eliminating chaos and unpredictability. Your species represents both chaos and unpredictability, yet you seem to thrive because of these qualities, not in spite of them. Over the following days, Alina began to notice changes in Kethvar's approach to his evaluation. Instead of simply observing from his ship, he began asking questions about human culture, art, and philosophy. He seemed particularly fascinated by human creativity and the seemingly random nature of human inspiration. Show me more of your music, he requested during one of their meetings. Alina had brought a collection of songs from different cultures and time periods, and Kethvar had listened to each one with intense concentration. Why do you create sounds that serve no practical purpose? He asked after listening to a Mozart symphony. Elena considered her answer carefully. Music isn't about being practical. It's about expressing emotions and experiences that can't be communicated with words alone. When I listen to that symphony, I feel connected to something larger than myself. Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. The Dominion views emotional expression as a weakness. We have evolved beyond such inefficiencies. But is it really inefficient? Elena asked. Music inspires us, motivates us, helps us work together. Some of our greatest scientific breakthroughs have come from people who were inspired by art or music. The alien sentinel began spending more time studying human cultural achievements. He observed artists creating paintings that depicted not just what they saw, but what they felt. He watched musicians collaborating to create sounds that had never existed before. He studied writers who crafted stories that explored the depths of human experience. Your species creates constantly, he observed. Even when faced with survival challenges, you continue to make art, music, and stories. This is unprecedented in our galactic records. Elena had begun to understand something important about Kethvar. Despite his cold, analytical exterior, he was deeply curious about humanity. More than that, he seemed to be experiencing something like wonder for the first time in his long existence. Tell me about your home, Elena said one day as they walked through the ship's gardens. She had discovered that Kethvar's vessel contained beautiful growing spaces filled with plants from dozens of different worlds. My homeworld is called Dominion. Prime, he replied, tending to a flowering plant with delicate silver petals. It is a world of perfect order and efficiency. Every citizen has a designated role, and every action serves the greater good of the Empire. That sounds lonely, Elena said carefully. Kethvar's hand stilled on the plant. Loneliness is not a concept that exists in Dominion society. We are all connected through shared purpose and identical goals. But what about individual dreams, personal relationships, love? The alien turned to face her, his expression unreadable. These are primitive concepts that lead to chaos and conflict. The Dominion eliminated such weaknesses millennia ago. Elena felt a surge of sadness for this being who had been raised in a world without love or personal connection. Kethvar, can I ask you something? Have you ever experienced friendship? The question seemed to catch him off guard. I understand the concept from my studies. But no, I have never experienced what you call friendship. Then let me be your first friend, Elena said simply. Kethvar stared at her for a long moment, and Elena thought she saw something flicker in his eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or even hope not. As the weeks passed, their relationship deepened. Elena introduced Kethvar to human concepts of friendship and companionship. She shared stories of her own life, her fears and hopes, her memories of growing up in a small town in Texas. In return, Kethvar began to open up about his own experiences. I have been a sentinel for 300 of your years, he told her one day. I have evaluated 47 different species. Of those, 31 were recommended for termination. Elena felt a chill run through her. What happened to them? They were eliminated by the Dominion's military forces. Clean and efficient, with minimal suffering. Kethvar's voice was steady, but Elena detected something new in his tone. Regret, perhaps. Asterisk. Did any of them try to communicate with you? To show you their culture? Some did, Kethvar admitted, but I was trained to ignore such attempts. Cultural expression was seen as irrelevant to threat assessment. What's different about this time? Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. You are different, Commander. You have shown me things I was not prepared to see. You have treated me not as a judge or an enemy, but as a friend. Elena realized that Kethvar was changing. The cold, analytical alien she had first met was being replaced by someone who was beginning to understand the value of emotional connection. And cultural diversity. The turning point came during a crisis that tested both of their convictions. A massive earthquake struck Japan, causing widespread destruction and triggering a nuclear emergency. Elena watched with growing concern as reports of radiation leaks and potential meltdowns filled the news. This is exactly the kind of situation that leads to social collapse, Kethvar observed as they watched the coverage together. The Dominion's models predict that your species will abandon the affected areas and focus on self-preservation. But once again, humanity surprised them both. Instead of abandoning the disaster zone, people rushed toward it. Nuclear engineers volunteered to work in dangerous conditions to prevent meltdowns. Rescue teams searched collapsed buildings for survivors. Ordinary citizens organized massive relief efforts. They're not running away, Elena said, watching a group of elderly volunteers prepare food for evacuees. They're running toward the problem. Kethvar studied the images in silence. This behavior should not be possible. No rational species would willingly expose themselves to danger for the sake of strangers. But that's exactly what makes us human. Elena replied, We don't always make the rational choice. We make the right choice. Something fundamental shifted in Kethvar that day. Elena could see it in his eyes, in the way he moved, in the questions he asked. He had begun to understand that humanity's apparent weaknesses were actually their greatest strengths. I am beginning to comprehend something that the Dominion has never understood, he said quietly. Order and efficiency are not the highest values in the universe. Connection, creativity, and compassion may be far more important. As the months passed, Kethvar's evaluation of humanity took an unexpected turn. Instead of focusing on military capabilities and technological advancement, He began studying human relationships, artistic achievements, and acts of selfless compassion. He observed parents caring for their children, friends supporting each other through difficult times, and strangers helping one another without expectation of reward. "I have made a decision," Kethvar announced one day as they stood together in his observation chamber. Elena felt her heart rate increase. "What decision?" "I will not recommend humanity for termination. In fact, I will recommend that the Dominion leave your species alone to develop naturally." Elena felt a surge of relief and joy, but she also detected something troubling in Kethvar's tone. "There's something else, isn't there?" "Yes," Kethvar said quietly. "The Dominion will not accept my recommendation. They will send another sentinel, one who will not be compromised by emotional attachment." Elena realized what he was saying. By changing his evaluation, Kethvar was defying his own empire and probably sealing his own fate. "What will you do?" she asked. Kethvar turned to face her, and Elena saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. Determination mixed with what looked like peace. "I will remain here," he said simply. "I will become Earth's guardian. My ship is equipped with defensive systems that can protect your world from Dominion forces. I choose to stay and defend the people who have shown me what it means to be truly alive." Elena felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Kethvar, you're giving up everything. Your home, your people, your entire way of life." "I am gaining something far more valuable," he replied. "I am gaining a purpose beyond mere duty. I am gaining friendship, and perhaps for the first time in my existence, I am gaining hope." Elena reached out and took his hand, feeling the strange warmth of his alien skin. "Then we'll face whatever comes together. That's what friends do." Kethvar squeezed her hand gently. "Yes, Commander. That is what friends do." As they stood together watching Earth turn below them, Elena realized that humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had not only survived their first contact with an alien civilization, but they had fundamentally changed that civilization's understanding of what it meant to be alive. The Dominion Empire would send more ships, more sentinels, more threats, but humanity would not face them alone. They would have an ally who understood both the power of advanced technology and the even greater power of the human spirit, and in the depths of space, preparing for a battle that would determine the fate of an entire world. Kethvar began to understand what humans had always known, that the greatest weapon in the universe was not force or technology, but the willingness to sacrifice everything for those you love. The Watcher had become the watched. The Judge had become the defender, and the alien had become human in all the ways that truly mattered. Asterisk